Hey, we're live, Taylor. What do you
We're
think?
here.
I know we've been working on this for a minute,
Yeah.
not maybe like 18 minutes or something, but let me
It's
get
been
my.
15 years in the making.
I know. I'm excited to do this with you, man. Let me get my screen right so it doesn't look so weird. But yeah. So right now so welcome if you're watching this on a replay. Welcome to the Real Investing Show with Taylor Davis and Stephen Earp. Or is it Stephen Earp and Taylor Davis?
We can go alphabetical. That's fine. We go
Okay.
first name or last name alphabetical,
I'm
though.
going to say Taylor Davis and Stephen Earp.
I won't stop you there.
Yeah. So this is the first time I've done this. I've gone live a lot with, with church and pastoring and Bible Q&A. But this is my first time with anything related to real estate investing. But before we do, we got to actually do this officially. So let's see. Let me see. We have a video. So if you guys are ready, if you're ready, type in the comments. I'm ready. Here we go. You ready to start, Taylor?
Let's do this.
Okay.
Now it's official.
This is episode 1 of how many? And we do have like 4 people watching. Those of you who are watching right now, I have to say one day you will look back and you will go, when this podcast video live stream started,
I was there.
I was there in the very beginning. And so anyway, yeah. Well, let's talk a little bit about real estate. So first of all, you and I have known each other how long now?
About 15 years. Yeah. So 2008, I think.
2008. So let's give a little bit of story. We can just reminisce. We can wax nostalgic. How did we meet? What was I doing? What were you doing?
So as I recall, you were investing in real estate. As an investor, I had recently gotten my real estate license, and I was calling for sell by owners to list them in the worst down market we'd ever seen. And I was a hustler, but I didn't have a lot of systems and processes. So I think I just kept calling you, and you finally were like, "We need to grab coffee." And I was like, "Yes, we do. And you need to list your houses with me." And then we ended up deciding to partner together instead. So,
yeah. So I actually, did you say it was 2008?
It was 2008. 2008 is when I got my real estate license. So that's when I started calling you.
Okay. Yeah. So yeah, I was buying and selling houses, and I had construction crew maybe, or a couple.
I think you were getting started in that, but I think at that point you were mostly just wholesaling, if I remember correctly.
Well, so I remember the house you called on, or you called on more than one house.
I think I called on a couple.
You called on more than one house. I'd actually had at least a couple houses that were completed construction, because I remember specifically one house you called on, and at the time, well, first of all, we should have told a little bit about what we do now and who we are, I guess.
Sure.
Let's do that and then jump back to that. So tell us who you are, who is J. Taylor Davis, and what do you do now?
I am a real estate investor and run a real estate team. I run a real estate team at Keller Williams, where we serve over 100 families a year selling houses. Last year we closed 104 units. Okay. And we so there's that part of it. I own and operate Airbnbs as well. So I have a portfolio of Airbnbs. Okay. And then we do flips and things like that as well. Just ventured into my first solo commercial project. So
cool. Yeah, that's awesome. So Norman, Oklahoma.
Yep, Norman, Oklahoma. Serves the OKC metro.
Okay, yeah. Married, kids.
Yeah, married for 11. Actually, next week. Next week will be May 7th, so a little over a week. I guess 2 weeks from now. It'll be 11 years, and got 3 wonderful kids: 7, 5, and 3. Yeah, and still, even though I have 3 kids, I'm still the one with the fewest kids on this podcast.
Yes, you are.
Tell me a little bit about you.
Okay, so I Yeah, Stephen Earp. I've mainly been I started buying and selling houses when I was like 19, but it was always a side thing it was always a side thing for me until recently. Now it's a primary thing for me. But yeah, my wife and I were married for 28 years. I'm a widower with the male version.
Yep.
My wife passed away about coming up on 18 months ago now,
Yep.
2020 December. I have 5 kids. They range in age from 29 down to 20, and I have 5 grandkids, and they're amazing, way better than kids. I would trade in all 5 of my kids for any one of my grandkids. And so I'm 47. In many ways, starting over in life, I'd been a bivocational pastor. And if anyone's listening that doesn't know what that means, bivocational means like in the ministry world. So I was a Christian pastor for a lot of years, like 28 years, and then I bought and sold houses on the side and was involved in businesses on the side. And then anyway, so I'm no longer involved in ministry. Kind of starting over after my wife died and got back involved in real estate. And you and I have stayed connected through the years. And so I'm really excited about this season. I'm enjoying this season a lot. I'm thankful for it. And so that's kind of a little bit about me. So 5 kids, 5 grandkids. And yeah, so I bought and sold a couple of houses last year and have a couple under contract and chasing after a couple now. And so yeah. And I'm excited about doing more with you in especially in the commercial space, especially commercial and multifamily space and stuff.
And I'm really excited about this podcast because I literally saw somebody post on Facebook the other day, what is something that you could talk about for 30 minutes without preparing? And my answer was real estate investing. Like that is without a doubt. Like that's the one. I mean, I can jump into philosophical conversations and other conversations too, but that's the one that I can get up with no preparation and thoroughly enjoy discussing.
100% agree. I'm the same. I love it so much. I'm excited about it. Even if no one ever watches, or even if no one ever listens, it'll be super fun for me anyway. But
so what is it about real estate?
Yeah,
that geeks you out?
That's so funny. I was going to ask you that. I like everything about it. First of all, like I like the control side from an investment perspective. I like that you can buy a real asset.
Yep.
That has actual value. So like, I don't know if anybody, I mean, the value of our dollar, like we keep printing more dollars and things like that. And so, so like they're not making any more real estate in the world. Pretty much we have what we have. And so it's a hard asset. So no matter what happens with cash, no matter what happens with the economy, people always are going to have a place to live, and real estate is not going anywhere. So I like that. I also like that you can buy an asset that already has equity in it. So meaning like if you're buying mutual funds or stocks,
paying market value.
Yep, you're paying market value, and then you're either holding it long term or you are presuming upon the future that it's going to have future value,
right,
which it may or may not. But with real estate, you can buy something under value, knowing that you already have some equity in it. So I like that. I like that you can control it with construction. Like you can slap a coat of paint on it and it's worth more. You put a roof on it, it's worth more.
Yep.
I like the creative aspect.
You can't do forced depreciation on a stock.
No.
Right? Unless you're the controlling interest of that business. Right. There's no way that you can put a forced appreciation on something.
Right.
And
so yeah, what about you? What is it that you like about real estate?
Everything is the short answer. I really do. I would say that my favorite thing about it is, my passion, and it's literally on my wall, is help people create wealth through real estate. Oh, nice. And that is, there is something. So, going back to my background, even before we met, growing up, I grew up impoverished and below poverty level, and great parents that cared. They were just ignorant, and they'll tell you that they just did not have financial literacy. And so for me, sometime in my teens, I just decided that that was not going to be the path for me. The path for me, I wanted to change the trajectory of my family um, through wealth building. And to me, the path of least resistance seemed like real estate. It was where almost all millionaires are invested in real estate in one way or another. So, hey, if that's the way that a lot of people are doing this, let's go down this path. What I love about real estate is it allows the common man, the common person, to grow their financial literacy in a pretty secure manner. There's multiple exit strategies. There's multiple ways to create wealth through real estate. And you can do it while being fairly secure in your positioning, where, with other, high upside opportunities, there's oftentimes a pretty high upside risk, and you can learn ways to mitigate that risk, especially through early on and through single family. There's so many different exit opportunities, and then you can learn from there, and it's scalable. Like, I can learn at a very base level with whether that's through my personal home or my very first single family rental. But that knowledge scales to where you can take a lot of that and go to larger multifamily or move into commercial. And while there are nuances and changes in that, and it is different, you get a lot of that same base model, and you have a foundation to build off of. And if you read Rich Dad Poor Dad, it's about financial literacy. It's not about the cash out. It's about learning how to create wealth.
No, it's good. You mentioned something. You mentioned Rich Dad Poor Dad. What is that? When you mentioned Rich Dad Poor Dad just in passing, like a throwaway statement.
Oh, that's true.
Maybe someone listening or watching doesn't know what that is. So what is Rich Dad Poor Dad?
And I listen to a lot of real estate podcasts, and one of the things that I find fascinating is on real estate podcasts, a lot of the times they'll ask, what's the book that influenced you, or what, how did you get in this? And it's almost surprising when someone doesn't mention that. Now, a lot of the times people will mention another book and they'll say, well, of course, Rich Dad Poor Dad and ... Rich Dad Poor Dad is a book by Robert Kiyosaki that I've read 4 times and I'm ready to read again. And it is a way of looking at money differently, and it's how people with wealth look at money, and he breaks it down in just a way that is manageable and understandable, and gives some real life examples, and the principles that you walk away with from that book are life changing, or can be, if you allow them to really influence your decisions.
Yeah. So I don't know how much we want to talk personal stuff, so if you don't like this, we can delete later. But you're homeschooled.
Yeah.
And let's see, like, when I met you, were you like 18 or 19?
I was 20. I just turned 20.
And you were 20, and you were hustling as a real estate agent.
Yep.
And you had already read Rich Dad Poor Dad at that point, or
I believe that I had, or I had started it, which sounds more like what I would have done back then. So I had at least some knowledge of it. And I remember reading it again while you and I worked together. And the first time I read it, there were actually aspects of it that I really disagreed with. And, certain points that were made, or kind of the way his rich dad went about teaching him certain things that I felt very uncomfortable with. And having read it a few times, and having read it with some experience in financial education now, it's amazing how on point that book is.
Yeah. So how did you Oklahoma homeschool family?
Yeah.
Like, how did you first engage in like the entrepreneurial interests, the investing interests, the business, the selling? Like, why did you not do the college route? Why did
Yeah.
you? Yeah.
All right. So backstory. So I was homeschooled. I was actually homeschooled all the way through. And
So did you like you have the suspenders and
oh
like
yeah,
the
yeah,
high water pants and
yeah.
like and awkward
No,
during the headlights? Like you walk into the store, everybody's like, "Oh, that's a homeschool kid." You're one of those guys,
yeah,
or
yeah. So actually, one of the greatest compliments I can receive is, "I didn't know you were homeschooled." And I'm like, "Thank you." Uh,
well, they don't know now because I already mentioned it.
yeah, no, but there's definitely a social piece there that can be missed.
Yeah,
My parents, I feel like, did a very they did a good job with the education. They did a really good job with the socialization,
yeah,
which I think is necessary for a successful person
yeah.
to learn those pieces as well.
Be normal.
But my parents definitely always had, specifically my mom, always had more of an entrepreneurial mindset. And they while they failed at a lot of things and didn't see a lot of success, they had the drive, they had the curiosity, they had the I'm going to go get something, I'm going to go after this, and had several businesses and I've had that spirit my whole life. In fact, as a kid growing up, I wasn't afforded a lot of kind of more normal things. So like if I wanted to go to church camp, I paid for it myself. So I remember at I think I was 12 years old,
Yeah.
12 or 13. I wanted to go to this summer camp. It was going to cost $125, and I needed I wanted a t-shirt and then money for concessions or whatever while I was there. I had my own money to pay for it that I had saved up, but I didn't want to tap into that money. So I actually went to Walmart and I bought a bunch of those little portable fans, the little dollar fans.
Yeah.
And I took them to summer camp and I sold them at summer camp in July in Oklahoma, where it's 115 degrees.
You
Okay, that's
stuck
an
it to him,
exaggeration.
didn't you?
Yeah, I sold them for I think $10 a piece, and I bought them for $1 a piece. And
Yeah, man.
I paid for my shirt, my
Yeah.
when you
Come on, that's what I'm talking about.
yeah. So when you start to you learn to
Uh,
think in a creative manner if you don't have something, and I think that was one of the benefits that I actually had.
yeah.
So
Yeah. That's awesome. I love that. So did your parents encourage you like to read entrepreneurial stuff, or did that come
absolutely,
later? Okay.
absolutely, and they all one of the things that they did well was talk about how poorly they did,
Oh,
and some of the decisions that they made that were bad decisions, and
yeah.
so they were pretty open and honest about that, which gave me the opportunity to go, hey, I don't want that. What I need to do something different, and
That's awesome.
so yeah, I've always had that kind of entrepreneurial piece,
Yeah, that's awesome.
but
And
yeah,
then teen years, high school years, so entrepreneurial drive came super early for you, and
yeah.
then the real estate. By the time I met you at 20, you were already doing a real estate thing. So when did you decide to get involved in real estate?
So this sounds and I actually checked this later in life because I thought, man, that's not really a story that you should say,
Yeah,
because money tends to have there tends to be a negative uh, attitude toward the desire of more wealth, or there
yeah,
can be,
yeah,
but really, as a teenager, I wanted something different in my life. My parents ended up losing their $30,000 house to foreclosure when I was 17 years old.
yeah.
So, I mean, that just to kind of give you the financial
Right.
landscape that I came from.
Mhm.
But it was in my early teen years, probably 14 or 15, that I decided I want to be a millionaire by the time I'm 30. That became a goal of mine. And the question that I asked was like, what is the path of least resistance to that? And to me, it felt like real estate. And I was always kind of intrigued by going back to what you said, that ability to force appreciation, right? Like I can go in, I can buy something that's worth more than what I'm paying for it. And I
Yeah.
can do something to it to make it worth even more. Now I can, I can see a return faster this way than
Yeah.
putting money in a stock market and hoping things work out.
No, that's good. That's awesome. I love that. So you've been at it the whole time since you're 20.
Yeah. I've not like 20 years old. I got my real estate license. I did put my license on inactive to sell real estate for a little while because I was doing a lot of wholesaling. And at the time you didn't need a license to do that. In fact, it almost got in the way in some areas. Right. So I did put it on inactive for a little while, came back in 2011, reactivated it. But even during that inactivation, it was because I was focused on real estate as a wholesaler rather than as so more of the investment side rather than the retail side.
So how old are you now?
20. Well, not 20 anything. 34.
Awesome. Oh, dude, you're still really young. I didn't know I was that much older than you.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I mean, I did, but I didn't.
You're in your early 30s. Because you're 40.
I was in my 30s. Yeah, I'm 47.
7? Okay.
47. Yeah. Yeah, cool. So we started doing stuff back then. We had a pretty decent run for how long together?
It was 3 years, 2 years, something like that.
Yeah. At that point, we did a good bit of stuff. That was a good season for me. Because I was pastoring still,
right?
And you and I partnered together on real estate stuff, and I was doing we did some. Maybe we should give some basic definitions, like some of the things. Like we did some wholesales.
Yeah. So what is wholesaling?
Yeah. What is wholesaling? So, okay, wholesaling, and jump in if I'm not making this succinct enough, but wholesaling houses is basically when you're buying a property super cheap and then you sell it to an investor for a small spread. So meaning if you think about buying a cash for trash house, let's say, or a house that needs something, it needs to be fixed, it's distressed, it needs help, or maybe the sellers are in trouble, and you buy it and you do a quick sale to an investor, and then they go in and either rent it out or fix it up and rehab it and resell it. So that's when we think about wholesaling, that's kind of that's the traditional thing, right?
And with a little additional clarity, you don't ever actually close on it yourself. Like you don't bring you buy a house that's worth $100,000 and you get it under contract for 75.
Right.
You don't actually bring the $75,000 to closing. You find an investor that's willing to pay $80,000 for it. Right. They step in, they pay the 75, and then they give you the 5. Right.
Yeah. Right. And there are a lot of different legal and contractual ways to structure it.
Sure.
Things like that. And back then, wholesaling, and I still am you're doing some wholesaling. We're both doing some wholesaling, and we've done some together. But
I've been closing on most of mine. But yeah, we've done some.
Yeah. And so with houses, single family. But it's the laws are changed now. Back then, there were some.
It was a while ago.
Maybe there were some incentives to not having real estate license.
Now you legally need one in order to do that.
Yeah, in Oklahoma and 1 or 2 other states, you have to have a license to wholesale houses because of predatory practices in many places. And I think it's a good move, actually. And so we would recommend, I think we would formally say we definitely recommend you get your license at this point if you're looking.
If you're going to be wholesaling, you absolutely need your real estate license, and you need to disclose. I mean, it's not there's been enough. Back in 2008, no one knew that term. That was, but. Going back to another reason that I love real estate, there's always a strategy. There's always, it doesn't matter what the market is. There's a strategy. And in 2008, I realized that the strategy wasn't retail. The strategy was wholesale. Like there's an opportunity there where a very few amount of people have a lot of money to invest, and most people aren't investing. So you have to take a different strategy.
And loans were harder so this was at the tail end of the subprime crash, the loan crash, the subprime, things were tanked, and I got caught on both ends of that. So I'm making at the time, and here's what I remember was some of the houses you were calling on. At one time, I had 6 houses or maybe 8 houses under construction, and I had 3 or 4 of them under contract, and that I had rehabbed. I had closed. I'd purchased them, had loans on them, and I had construction crews that worked for me full time. At one point, 3 of them, and we had we had them like under contract, and then the subprime market crashed, so people couldn't get loans. So like I had buyers who couldn't close on their loans. So like every month I was like, they were changing the guidelines for mortgages and stuff. And
Oh
so
yeah.
it was connected somehow around that time, because I just remember
Yeah, that's right.
one of the houses you called on was in Southwest Oklahoma City on Country Club.
Absolutely.
And I remember that house. And that was a house that I was like, holy moly. And so it was challenging. So yeah.
I want to say this
Yeah.
because when you finally, well, I'd called a few different times, and every time it was like, no, you were
Yeah.
respectful, but no. And when you came back and you're like, all right, listen, we need to meet and have coffee. I was thinking, here's this big time investor. If we're gonna meet, let's find a nice place to meet. And you're like, there's a McDonald's on 89th and May. I was like, I mean, okay, McDonald's it is. So, but I think that goes back to our, like, we're not hoity-toity about this. We're pragmatic about this. So.
Yeah. And the reason I was, I'm glad was I kind to you for real, or are you just saying that because we're live on Facebook?
No, I'm saying that because it's been 15 years, and to my knowledge, I remember you being nice.
So at the time, I don't remember specifically being annoyed by your calls. However, I will say at that time, if you ever put a for sale by owner sign up, you would have about 15 realtors call or real estate agents call for every one potential buyer.
Oh, for sure.
And so I would sort of get, so full. I was like, listen, if you have a buyer that's ready to look at it and you have a contract with them that you're their buyer's agent, you could definitely look at the house. I will not be listing the house with you,
Yeah.
And so that at that time, I had a little bit of an attitude about that sort of thing. And my perspective at the time was, and of course now I'm older and not as opinionated, but now I have more questions than answers. But at the time, my perspective was like, most agents that I know almost never sell anything, and so I don't want to work with them. I only want to work with someone who's like massively successful already.
Right.
And actually, at the time, I was working with an agent that both of us know that now it works for the title company, that the same office that you work in now. Devery was her name.
Oh yeah.
That's how I got to know her. So I had bought a number of houses from Devery.
Okay.
Working with Keller Williams at your office.
Yeah.
And that's who I was buying from, and I had sold houses with her as well. And so I was like, if I'm going to work with an agent, I want to work with someone who's like one of the 5% people who's making 95% of the money.
Right.
And so she had a team, and
of course I had an objection handler to that because I've worked on my scripts. Yeah. And you're 100% right. And one piece of advice that I would give is, if someone's interested in getting into real estate, you have to understand that you're building a team.
Yeah.
And because you're not the only person that's responsible for your success, right? Your title company, you're a realtor. Your realtor's your deal finder in most cases, or you may have a wholesaler that you have a relationship with. Yeah. And it really is important that because not all of them are the same. And I don't know, and all of them will tell you that they are, but the fact of the matter is that they're just not.
Yeah. Well, here's what I remember about your call, and I told my wife about it. My wife Christy at the time. I said, I'm going to go meet with this guy. Is a real estate agent, and I remember her saying, "Steven, you're just going to be annoyed." And I said, "No, listen. He's called me on multiple houses, and he's really sharp on the phone. And here's why I decided to meet with you. I said, bro, I want to encourage you. Like, I appreciate your hustle. I appreciate your hard work." And I said, I've been doing this for a little while, and I
want to help
how many
out.
Yeah, I said, how many? And you said, help me out. But I was thinking, yeah, that's just a line. And maybe it was, I don't know. But you said, I said, like, how many deals have you closed in the last 90 days or something like that? And you said, well, here's the deal. I'm just getting started, but I have this much in the pipeline, and all I'm doing all day, every day is making calls. So I'm definitely going to make it work. Like, it was sort of like, you were acknowledging I haven't done many deals. You know what I mean?
You were
But
asking the question, you were asking the wrong question, right? Like I wanted to like pivot you to
yeah,
asking, because somebody comes in and they're like, well, how many deals have you done? Right. A great
yeah,
objection to that could be, right. And
yeah,
this is probably where I went with it. I don't really remember.
yeah.
Would be like, do you want the person that's got 12 other clients that they're working with and really distracted, or do you want the person that's going to focus on getting your house sold, which is someone who's going to be on the phones making these calls?
Totally accurate. Yeah. You said something like that. And I walked away from that call thinking he's really hungry. And I don't know if you use that language or not.
It's
That
one of my core values. If you go into my real estate office, on the
uh,
wall,
uh,
hungry is at the very top.
okay. I told my wife, this guy, he's young and hungry. And I said, I just want to meet with him and see. So and then I feel like I don't remember our first conversation, but I feel like we hit it off. And I'm really thankful for
Oh,
the
we
relationship.
did. And I mean, within a few months, I was putting my real
Yeah.
estate, I mean, within 6 months, I think I had my real estate license inactive and we were
Yeah.
working together full time. So
And we did some really
we
high
did quite a
profit.
bit. I mean, for 2008, when no one else was doing anything, we were
Oh
crushing it.
yeah,
So,
we were crushing it, and considering like you were still like kind of playing around and young, and
oh
I
yeah,
was back in the church
I
and
was 20
raising
years
kids.
old. Yeah.
We were both not putting in as much time as what
Right.
you know. I mean, and we made good money. I mean, like I paid off all my debt again during that season.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, we did. I don't know. We did. I mean, at one point we maybe wholesale 4, 5, 6 houses in a month. I don't know.
Yeah.
We did a lot.
We did quite a bit. And so what I'm to kind of tie this back to the Real Investing Show.
Yeah.
What I really hope is that as people are watching this, and we're bringing up topics that allow people to feel more comfortable taking that step into real estate, because I don't know how often I get people because I'm pretty out there, because I help people with their primary sale.
Yeah.
And so I get people that are looking at it from that. And then I'm pretty open about being a real estate investor. I get people often reaching out, asking to, hey, can I grab a cup of coffee, or can I ask you questions about real estate? And what I've realized is there's a lot of people that are very, very interested in real estate.
Yeah.
And there's not a lot of people that feel really comfortable making that first step, right? That is the hardest step, is that
totally.
first one, because you don't know what you don't know.
Yeah.
And that scares people. And so people will sit on the edge of that. I don't know what I don't know. And so if we could, bring some kind of clarity, or at least like comfortability to taking those steps to get started.
Yeah.
Man, that would be what I would love to see from this. Right.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. So what do we expect on this show in the future? I hope we can just be real and just share what we're doing and what we have done. And it'd be great if people have questions. I have people ask me about real estate all the time, and I don't have the bandwidth or the time or maybe the patience sometimes to sit down with someone. But if we can just kind of unpack that stuff here together, and go ahead.
No, I mean, I think that we can go. I mean, a few things is one. I hope that the viewers will be commenting and letting us know, here are some areas that I'm curious about and I don't understand. Can you clarify this for me?
Yeah.
Two, I think that it's what we're walking through that I want to be able to discuss. But as we're walking through large multifamily or commercial deals, but also what we've walked through, right? And because real estate really seems to be a progressive industry, you tend to continue to move up,
right,
and into different challenges. But I would love to see, we could do an episode specifically on long-term rentals, specifically on short-term rentals, specifically on flipping. These are all things that you and I have a lot of
rehabbing or construction or Airbnb. I have zero experience in Airbnb, but I'm very interested in learning. Or multifamily. We also hope to, over time, we will have space over time for select people to get involved with us in an investing sort of way.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so there are ways people could get involved in terms of passive investing and things like that.
Absolutely.
And so, but our hope is just to kind of throw everything out there. And there are lots of courses out there on real estate. And just as a little side thought for me is like, it would be kind of fun just to give everyone the free stuff that we've learned because we've bought all the courses.
Yeah, there's a lot of courses out there that want to charge a lot of money.
It's like, come on,
for this.
It's not necessary. And so I sort of a devious part of me is sort of like, we can give people enough free stuff and they don't buy the courses from the fake gurus that are like get rich quick jokers.
Right.
And but yeah, so maybe some closing thoughts. If you're watching, just thanks. This is our first episode. We've told a little bit about ourselves, a little bit about our background, and I'm sure we'll share more about that in the future. Different topics. Please let us know. Reach out to me. Right now, you can reach out to me personally, reach out to Taylor personally. I think we've tagged both of us in this.
Yep.
And so let us know. Eventually, we'll be uploading this to Spotify and different podcast platforms and things like that. But we'd love to field your questions if you have questions, or somebody's thinking, hey, how do I get involved in real estate, or actively or passively? We'll love to help out with that in any, either investing or maybe even as if you're looking to be an agent or something, that might be something that we could at least give you some, advising on that.
Takeaway: you've got a book to read.
Yeah, the book
Rich Dad Poor Dad. That's a great foundational book to get started.
Yeah, totally agree. For me, by the way, Rich Dad Poor Dad was your book. For me, Cash Flow Quadrant was the one that did it.
Okay, and that's Robert's second book, right?
I don't know if it's first or second, but
okay.
I read Cash Flow Quadrant first.
Okay.
And I read Rich Dad Poor Dad later. But yeah. So for me, maybe just let's end this way. A few takeaways, and then we can come back another time and talk more. But you want to just throw out there your top maybe 2 or 3 or 1 or 2 real estate books?
Yeah, Rich Dad Poor Dad. Mm-hmm. I do really like The Long Distance Real Estate Investor. It gives some practical how to build your team, what to look for in a good real estate agent, and some of the things that we kind of touched on. And third, I'd say The Millionaire Real Estate Investor.
Is that who wrote that?
Gary Keller and Jay Papasan.
Yep. Okay, that book is at the top of my list. I would say the Rich Dad Poor Dad, Cash Flow Quadrant, and then The Millionaire Real Estate Investor by Gary Keller. So that Millionaire Real Estate Investor, it exclusively is sort of like traditional ways. He doesn't deal with a lot of creative ways.
No creativity, but it's just like, here is a path that you can go down that a lot of people have gone down and always ends in success.
Yep. So, and that book is like,
it kind of reads like a textbook. It's a little boring, but
I read every word of it like in 2006 or 2007.
Yeah.
Something like that. But
good one.
Yeah, interesting. We have the same kind of books. I also learned a lot from Ron LeGrand back in the day. That was more like program-based stuff.
Gotcha.
But yeah, good stuff. So there's some homework, guys. Let us know if you have questions. Hit us up in the comments or tag us in something. And so thanks so much. Anything else you want to say before we close, Taylor?
No, I'm looking forward to it. I'm excited. So thank you so much, Stephen.
Yeah, I'm excited, man. I'm excited to do all this. So look forward to doing more and more. God bless you guys. Thanks for watching. Please just like, comment, and share. Let your friends know about this. Send us some questions if you have them. See you later.
Bye, y'all.